Cole.
And I'm Byron Cole.
Welcome to the Self-Made podcast. And we're here today with the amazing Jazz. Jazz is the founder and CEO of J&C Education. Welcome, Jazz.
Thank you so much.
How are you feeling today?
Feeling great, as always.
That's awesome. Jazz, tell us about your business and what you do.
So I'm the founder of J&C Education and J&C Academy. I founded those companies in 2004 to embed a lifelong passion for learning. We deliver engaging, enriching creative curriculums, and our focus is really to empower children to be confident, creative and critical thinkers. And what we do is give them transferable skills that give them choice as to how that they can positively contribute to society. So yeah, we have about 120 people in our organisation and working across around 100 primary schools throughout London and South East. Going for 15 years, developed a real strong reputation for excellence, and just in terms of making sure that every child is able to raise attainment across the curriculum and also to move closer towards their full potential. So that's what we're all about.
So for the average man who perhaps doesn't understand that level, might not understand that level of detail, perhaps not in that particular industry, can you strip it back a little bit so that it's very, very simple for anybody to understand exactly what you deliver and what you do and what you deliver? Sure.
So we partner with primary schools and we deliver their creative curriculums. So we deliver their PE, music, foreign languages, art and drama.
Sure.
So we recruit, train and develop those teachers in order to be able to deliver those creative curriculums effectively, as well as providing the schools with a teacher. We also provide the resources for them to be able to deliver it effectively as well. Yeah.
Excellent. And where are you based?
So our head office is based in Park Row, Acton, and we cover primary schools throughout London as well as the South East, all the surrounding counties as well.
So you're kind of like an external entity that then puts the right people in the schools to support the creative curriculum for young people.
Correct, yeah, and we really focus on delivering the creative curriculum to a high impact, because the problem for schools is that in primary schools, there's a big focus on money, on a lack of resources, right? Lack of public funds. 2 out of 3 head teachers are saying that they need to cut staff in order to save money. So we cover that cost by we partner with the primary schools and we deliver their after school, preschool and holiday provisions.
Awesome.
When we do that, we pay them a rental fee so that they actually get paid for us being there. So whilst we charge them between sort of school hours, we pay them back for what we're doing in the extended schools. And also obviously offering the parents a cost-effective solution to childcare, because in comparison to any other sort of childcare out there, it's very cheap and also it's sustainable and it's effective because you've got really skilled, passionate teachers there delivering a really engaging service.
How did you get into this industry?
Interesting. So I started when I was 17 and I was sort of going around to schools doing coaching, and my thing at that age was really to be a professional footballer. And I was on my way there. I was sort of training at Wycombe Wanderers and so on. And one of the girls that I was working for said, actually, I've got this school. We've got like 20 kids after school every Monday, I think it was. And actually, I'm going to teach full-time in secondary schools. And she said, you might as well take it over. You're doing a good job here. You're running the sessions anyway. All you need to do differently is to print the flyers for the kids, right? So I took that on. And from there, I just grew the business and grew it over 15 years and started training other people to deliver to the same standard of service and training people to really engage learners so that they're captivated. And one of the things that made me different from a lot of other people that were coaching was making sure that we're teaching lifelong learning through sport, as opposed to just teaching them how to play football or just teaching them how to play basketball. So I realized also that through developing a passion for lifelong learning myself, I was able then to learn all of the different sports, because originally I just knew how to play and teach football, right? So I learned how to teach all those other sports myself, went on all the courses, etc. And then I realized that I was much more effective in what I did, which then able to raise revenue, which then able to employ people, and so on and so forth. So when I was 19, we were working at about 12 different primary schools, sort of after college, after uni, going to do the sessions and whatnot. And I had about 5 guys working for me that were covering the sessions while I was studying or playing football. And at that point, there was a lot of other companies doing that sort of service in schools. And I realized that there was a big gap in the market in terms of the quality that they were able to provide, and also the range of what we're able to provide. So a lot of people just did football or just did sport. So yeah, I spoke to all of the schools that we were working with. It was vigorous. I was at uni at the time, and sent them all a letter. Said, look, we'd love to take this full time for you. And 3 of them came back and said yes. So I thought, oh, grand. I better go to work. So I started ringing the guys that were working for me, and 3 of them were committed to going on full time. So we had 3 full-time contracts, and then I never went back to uni again.
Oh, really? So you didn't finish the course?
So I did my 2nd year, and I left.
Wow, what were you studying?
I was studying law.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Was that because you were interested in becoming a lawyer or going down the legal profession, or that was just
Yeah, law was like my backup plan, right? Because I was like, look, man, I'm like, you know, I had 2 very distinctive skill sets, right? So I was really academic, hardworking. I wasn't naturally smart, but I was hardworking enough to get the A's, B's, and C's that I got, right? And I was really good at sport as well. So my first thing was like, I need to make it as a professional footballer.
Yeah.
And then my second thing was like, right, okay, if I don't make it, cool, I've got law. And I wanted to, people always say to me, you know, why did you not do like sports science in college or university or whatever? And it was just it never felt rigorously academic enough for me. And it kind of felt like I was going down a linear route of just being a sports guy.
Sure.
Yeah. And I never wanted to be that guy. So I wanted to make sure that I was able to combine both. And actually that's the foundation of how J&C started and how the principles by which we operate, because it's all about merging the academic and the artistic intelligence to create a well-rounded individual.
Absolutely.
So
amazing.
Yeah.
So you literally went straight from college into starting a kind of mini self-employed situation to then going to university, realizing you actually got a business essentially on your hands, and just leaving and going full-time businessman. Yeah. My next question, how did the family take it?
You know, like back in the day, them days, your grandma never used to, like we didn't have mobile phones them days. Grandma never, I got a phone call from my grandma. I was like, jeez.
Who told her?
Yeah, who told her?
What did she say?
So my mum was startled at first. My mum's more easygoing. My mum's like, you know, my mum was born here, right? So she's very calm. Okay, son, that doesn't really sound like the right thing to do. But, you know, she was more open to it. My grandma rang me up, like, grandson, what is this I'm hearing about you quitting university?
And 2 years in as well.
2 years in. Yeah. And you know what? I explained it to her. I broke it down, and we had about a 10-minute conversation. And she was like, well, me not sure if this is a good thing, but if you say it's a good thing, then God bless and I wish you all the best.
And that's when you knew you had to make it a good thing.
Oh yeah.
That's pressure. Yeah.
100%.
That pressure you didn't even realise you've got.
But also, like, you know, I was smart about it too, in that I had 3 contracts on the table.
Okay.
And I knew that, like, I needed to make a certain amount of money to be secure, right? And that, to be honest, when I was a teenager coming through school and stuff, I always said to myself, you know, I want to be able to make £30,000 a year. I need a job that be able to pay that as my salary. And with those 3 contracts, we were able to generate that profit. So I was like, you know what? All else fails, I've got what I need to secure myself and to grow the organisation. And you know, I just used like £20,000 plus of that money to reinvest back into the organisation and growing.
Amazing. And so how have you managed to grow it since then? What was the turning point when you realised this is a real business? You know, you're at 120 staff now, but how did you get to that point? Yeah,
it's a real journey really. So when we were started in 2007 as full time, between that 2007 and 2009, a lot of schools were saying, you know what, you're delivering a really good service with the PE here. What can you do in terms of music and what can you do in terms of foreign languages? So at the beginning, we were kind of like touching different ways in which we can do it. Try, fail, for a period of 2 years until we found a really good music teacher who was relatively local to a school that wanted to partner with us. And then we made it happen. And through that process, again, I learned about music, I learned about the curriculum, how to shape it, how to deliver it, how to shift it and form it in terms of our vision and values as well. So I co-wrote the curriculums on that. I co-wrote the curriculums on the French program with a French teacher, and then we employed music and French teachers. And basically what I did in terms of training other people to teach like me, did the same thing with the music, did the same thing with the foreign languages. So we had a really good music teacher, a really good French teacher, and any new person that wanted to come in, train with that person for a day.
Onboarded via them.
Onboarded by them, and it's the same system we operate by now.
So it's not, I know you recruit teachers to place them in various places, but they still remain your team.
Yeah.
How does that actually happen, or how do they still remain your team and your part of your circle?
So it's like a two-pronged approach, right? So we do two things. A, we embed the teacher very, very well into the schools, and that's what schools love about us. If you ever look at the testimonial on the latest testimonial that we put out from Barbara, she says that J&C's team is my team, and that's what I like about it. So the way that they're employed by us is that I think we're one of, to my awareness, we're the only company that I know that's in that space that employs people internally. And the reason that we do that is A, because we love what we do, and B, because we're really passionate about growing people. When you place a teacher into a school, right, let's say you have a school of 50 teachers, right, and you have one PE teacher or one music teacher, how is that person then contributing to their growth and personal and professional development? What's different here at J&C is you have then a community of music teachers, a community of art teachers that you're continuously learning and growing from. Because one of the big problems for me, and you guys are probably the same, is like when you had teachers that had a certain level of experience, had a certain level of kudos and status in the school, oftentimes they just dwindled, and they just, not that they didn't care, but they didn't develop. It's not like they got better. And as learning then evolves, technology comes into play, all of these things are evolving. Teachers are not getting better, actually learning is just becoming less and less effective.
So essentially, teachers that are come by yourself, they're consistently learning, developing, growing, versus a teacher in a particular school that might not have those benefits. So how do you affect that change with the teachers that you have? What is it that you have in place? What is it that you do a bit differently? What training programs do you have?
Yeah, I mean, we
not getting into trade secrets.
So no. It's, I'm completely open about what we do and how we do it. Like, we have an operations team. So we have like head of operations who's the ex-deputy head, and then the others are like ex-middle leaders, like senior head of departments or whatever it is. And they have really good industry knowledge about what it takes to deliver a really effective curriculum, and they're also passionate about the arts. So that's sort of our criteria, and we deliver term-by-term training sessions and professional development based upon A, what is required in terms of, they go out, they do observations, they support staff in terms of embedding them into the school, embedding them into the curriculum, making sure that they understand our way of doing things, etc. And also then we have term professional development. The most recent one that we had a voice coach, which was really, really interesting because it was the first time that we had a voice coach, right? And you might think, why do you have a voice coach for a teacher? Because teachers are out using their voice all day long, 9 hours a day. And it's like, how do you control that? How do you make sure that you get your message across in a powerful and distinctive way? Because oftentimes teachers do this, right? They say a simple thing, but they take 3 or 4 sentences to say it.
Yeah.
It's wasted time. Now you're affecting and wasting 29 other children's time. So if you can say that same statement and get it across in a sentence, or as opposed to a sentence, get it across in 2 words, effect, impact, and imagine that over time, over the course of an hour, over the course of a day, over the course of a year, how much more learning time you're actually able to accelerate by using your voice in the correct way.
And the delivery as well, so if it's short and concise and powerful with the right tonality, then that will engage the students in a different way. Then.
Correct, as opposed to what you sometimes get, and we're not perfect, we've got this before, like, children really difficult. No, it's not the children, it's how you deliver it, and it's actually about taking personal responsibility for how you deliver, how you engage. One of the things that fascinates me, and one of the things that made me really effective in some of I was talking to my director about this morning actually, one of the things that makes some of our senior teachers really effective is you can put them in any school, any environment, put them with 3-year-olds in the nursery, put them with 18-year-olds from that have been kicked out of school, right? And they'll deliver and they'll create impact because they create synergy, they create relationships, and also deliver it in an engaging way that connects with that relative audience. So that's what it's really about, is building those relationships and being able to relate to children in a way that creates impact, not just kind of the linear, fixed and one-dimensional way that education is often taught in this country. And certainly it's been taught the way it was to me, and I'm sure to you as well. It's changing, it's improving, and what I love about it is that we're being a big cause within that change. I remember one time, we were in school, this was back in 2007, and we just had our first contract with this big school, right? And we were about 1 month in or so, and there was like 400 kids in the dining area, and the dinner ladies came out and they were like, ring the bell, like, line up! Come on, children, line up!
And where are they from?
This was in South. And the kids weren't having it.
Really?
The kids weren't having it. They weren't on it. They were disengaged. They just weren't listening. This went on for, I don't know, maybe about a minute, right? And then a senior teacher came in, like, right, la la la, started chatting to kids, and then some of them moved and some of them weren't quite there. And then my guy Chris just went in, and he just started. And then everyone started repeating that rhythm. It was like, right guys, thank you, just line up please. And that was it, done. So it's like creating engaging ways to connect as opposed to just shouting at kids and, you know,
it's not effective.
Yeah,
it's not effective, yeah.
Short term it might work, but long term it doesn't work, does it?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know you're big on leadership. And kind of leadership styles, and you know, I've seen he has a fantastic YouTube channel. Take a look at that, and you talk about you bring leadership a lot into education. I find from being around you. So, what is it about that idea of bringing leadership to the youth that you like so much, and what are we missing? What's the education system missing when we look at the whole leadership spectrum? And starting with why and purpose and the things that you kind of talk about a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that I'll say is that everybody's a leader. We often think of leadership as a position or a title, but actually, as teachers, we're all leaders. As whether you're a TA, you're a leader. As a business person, you're a leader. You're a parent, you're a leader because you are leading your child or your children. And the second thing that I'll say is that, like, you know, leadership is part of learning, right? And the thing that I love about leadership is that it's ongoing. You can never go, right, I'm a leader, that's it. Like, I don't need to learn anything about leadership because you're always relating to people and learning new things. So the way that I approach leadership is like looking at it from a very pragmatic point of view. It's like, now I no longer focus on kind of like self-progress, but I look at progress through other people. So when I see team members of mine grow, that's effective leadership for me. So when I see shouting to my managing director yesterday, when I see her as coming in as head of accounts, then moving to CFO, then moving to managing director, that's leadership because I've created space for those people to grow. And I'm all about moving myself from one position to another. Like, so when I employ somebody, or when I don't employ people, but when the team employ people, it's like, okay, what my managing director was saying to the 2 new people that we have in the office yesterday was that, like, I need you to now take my position. That's what you need to do so that I can kick Jazz out of here and take his position. And that's what it's all about. And I understand that because that's what I did from the time that I was 17, which was train other people to teach the PE, train other people to teach the music, and continually learning, continually leading other people and helping other people to grow. Because what happens if people don't grow? They stagnate. And their potentials then and the world evolves. So that means that they eventually start to stagnate. And that means that the world is not impactful. The world is boring. The world is flat. Oh, I'm bored, I'm stressed, I'm tired, I'm hungry.
And that's how you keep them motivated.
So whilst we're talking about learning, I want to know about personal development and what you do for your own personal development. Wow, I better get my
It's a lot. I mean, this year, so I put a managing director in place in January, and since probably August, I've been really intentional on growing. I realized to a point that I was like stifling my own business because I had this seat, right? And I was the person that made a lot of the decisions. And whilst I was, good at what I was doing and so on, I realized that essentially that I was stagnating my leadership. I was stagnating the growth of other people. While I wanted to step out, I was still the one at the forefront, at the helm all the time. And I read a book called Multipliers by Liz Wiseman, which was really effective. That really helped to shape my leadership in terms of getting out of my own way and helping other people to step into those positions. So in terms of my own personal growth, like what I've done is I've done a course called DENT, which is Key Personal Influence. I've done a course called Landmark, which has been really profound in terms of shifting the way that I see things, my perspective, my communication, my clarity, which you love to speak about. My confidence. I've always been confidence sounds like quite a loose term, right? But I've always been confident, but confidence in a different way, where I'm able to thriving on challenging conversations and stuff like that. I'm with a group called the Supper Club, which has been really effective in terms of building a peer group of it's a CEO's network. that's been great. And yeah, there's just been a lot of learning. So like every other evening, I'm pretty much in a learning environment where I'm surrounded by like-minded people who are making big change in the world and making big impacts on society, and that's definitely helped me to evolve and to grow. So yeah.
So what would you say the number one piece of personal development has been for you that's had the most impact in your life to date?
Landmark.
And you read a couple of years back, right?
And I remember that was the first time I met you, right? And you were like, "Oh, what was it like?" I was like, "Yeah, it was good." And I was like, "Yeah, it's all right."
Yeah.
It wasn't like groundbreaking. When I did the advanced program and then I did the self-expression leadership program, which I'm currently on now, I was just like, "This is a complete game changer." And what I started to realize, and even after I did the first bit, after I spoke to you, I started to realize all of the other bits of the understanding, being able to break through the performance, being able to break through the barriers that I wasn't breaking through before. And I realized the impact of that.
So just explain what Landmark is, just for the purpose of the people who are watching this.
Yeah.
Well, what is it? What's the...
Landmark is a personal and professional development program. It's one of the leaders in the world on personal and professional development. And really it helps you to break through performance barriers in any area of life. And what I love about it is that no matter where you are, whether you're a CEO of a multinational organization or whether you are, whether you're coming out of rehab, for example, right? It's like looking at your performance and being able to self-identify, self-evaluate where you're at, what's stopping you from getting you to where you want to go. And it really immerses you into an environment where you're able to create whatever it is that you want to create.
Sure.
And it's different because it's not somebody telling you, and again, it links to learning, right? In terms of like what we do. It's not somebody telling you this is what you need to do, but actually it's giving you the tools and the access to be able to create that within yourself.
Sure.
And the difference is when somebody tells you what to do, you can do it, right? And that's going to create some sort of change, some sort of shift. When it becomes from within you, then it becomes a lifelong thing. It becomes lifelong embedded within you and it doesn't leave you.
Right. So did that help you to take that step back and put an MD in place? Was it kind of that learning that made you do that? Yeah,
it's that learning that caused the shift in that understanding in terms of me getting out of my own way. It's that learning that caused the shift in terms of, me wanting to having an aspiration of moving home and, certain lifestyle. It's that that caused that shift and made me, move from where I was to where I am now, house-wise. And so many other things in terms of, being able to put the MD in place, being able to move home, being able to break through of anything that was holding me back and create the world, the surrounding, the understanding that I want to create in the world. Yeah.
So whilst we're on top of personal development, let's move on to and learning. Let's move on to some books that you've read. I just want to know your top 10. I'm going to give you 5. Because I know this guy has about 50.
Wow.
He's got about 50.
I know that, but I feel like asking someone to reel off 10 on top of their head is hard.
He's got them ready.
All right, let's go. All right.
Actually, you're putting me on the spot because I did write this in the book that I've just wrote. Self-made.
Obviously.
Of course. In no particular order. I'll take that.
Number one is fine.
The rest of the 9 can follow.
No, that book really is profound and really gives a lot of clarity. So that's great. Other books, Liz Wiseman Multiplier has been really effective. The book called Traction, which is about how to grow your business. Have you read it?
No.
Okay, so it's about how to grow your organization.
Okay.
What other books? The author called Patrick Lencioni. 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Incredible.
Okay.
Incredible. The way that he distills that, really, really powerful. What else? Top of the head. And then there's other books like Purple Cow, which are really good.
What's that one about? Is that marketing?
Yeah, marketing, Seth Godin.
Okay.
21 Laws of Irrefutable Leadership, John Maxwell. Feed me some energy, feed me some
Do you only read leadership and business books? Is a question I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Really?
And occasionally books on education, school stuff if I'm doing a particular
So no like fun fiction?
No, fiction.
Like when you're on holiday, when you're on the beach somewhere, are you just reading self-made? Like what's happening?
Well, here's the thing.
I'm just checking. When you autobiography, like there's a spectrum of books available. I know we only read
autobiography is still kind of like a.
It's probably a business autobiography.
But it's always
okay.
I mean, here's the thing that I understand, right? Like, I love to be able to move from one place of understanding to a new place of understanding. So, whilst it might be classified as a business book, and we often classify education as boring or kind of one-dimensional, I love to learn. That's what gets me excited. That's what really drives me. So when I'm able to, put my head into a book or put it in a podcast or whatever, or put it in my ears or whatever it is, it's just like, that is gold for me. And that is enjoyment for me. Yeah.
So I want you to, first of all, describe yourself. And then I want you to imagine how your best friend would describe you.
Yeah. Sounds like a question I should have prepared for.
There's no preparation. That's why everyone always asks, give me
what's
a question.
The question in advance?
And because you get a different type of answer. If I gave you that prepped answer, I would have got this really succinct, polished answer. But this is going to be from the heart now. So first of all, the easier one, give me what your best friend or someone who's really close to you, how they would describe you.
How would you describe it?
It's on my interview.
I tried to throw you Okay, so my best friend or my close friends would describe me as an effective communicator, a great parent, somebody that is very encouraging, somebody that is very supportive, somebody that is very effective in terms of like leadership and very determined. Yeah, because I actually, and the reason that I said like,
sure you didn't give me questions before.
The reason that I said that I should have prepared for it is because I started to do this on a yearly basis, right? I asked like 20 people, like people that are close to me, like, how would you describe me in 3 words, right? And there was 3 words that came up like time and time again, that came up like 7, 8 times. And I remember one of them was determination. One of them was, I can't remember what the other 2 were, but they kind of surround.
What made you ask them those questions?
Reflective planning. Yeah, like really being able to become more self-aware.
Yeah.
Because what people say about you, what I realized was that, and part of this is kind of like what I picked up from Landmark, is like what you think about yourself is different to how other people perceive you.
Which is why I asked the question.
Right, yeah. And it's like, how do you close the gap so that you are perceived in the way that you want to be perceived, so that you are the way that you want to be.
Sure.
So by asking those reflective questions, it really helps to develop self-awareness in terms of, okay, so where are my gaps and how do I then close those gaps? And it gives you access to be able to do that with impact.
If the answers that you got back or the feedback you got wasn't quite what you expected, what would you have done?
Great. Shift. Like then start to review, what do I need to do differently in order to come across the way that I wanna come across. I remember my brother said something which was something that was quite cheeky but also quite reflective. It wasn't this word, but it was something like stiff. So I was like, okay, cool. I said, what do you mean by that? And he was like, yeah, you sometimes just need to loosen up a bit and blah, 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 and this, that, and the other. And I realized that. And, now we have a better relationship. I have an awareness of that happening. And I'm able to then create something different, create a different pattern of behavior, which then, when I asked him in 12 months, he might come up with a different answer.
Sure.
Might come up with an answer that my auntie said, which is more like loving, caring, which is what I want. So, yeah.
So how would you describe yourself now? Define a bit.
Determined, ambitious, creative. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
See, he's definitely prepped this one.
No, but that's also exactly what it is. And through answering the previous question, it helped me to distill that in a more clear way. Yeah.
So you've now created this podcast. I don't know if that's the right term that you're calling. Is it a podcast?
I call it a show. It is a podcast form.
Yeah. So what was the motivation behind it? What are you trying to achieve from it? And give us some information about some of the interviews that you've had. Great.
So the Passion for Learning show is really around interviewing and having conversations on camera with inspiring leaders. The reason that I set it up, and again, it's something that I wanted to do, I had in my mind for a long time, just didn't really do it. And the thing that caused the shift for me was really knowing that leadership and educational specialists is not really celebrated in this country. It's not really shared, it's not really community. And again, I spoke about teachers being isolated in schools. Head teachers get isolated massively, although that's changing. Like in America, they have, as far as I'm aware, they have a much bigger community around education. They meet regularly and they're all, you know, not necessarily friends, but they're all in like peer groups and they collaborate on how they're going to improve their school. Whereas over here, I feel like it's more isolated. And also there's often like such a negative narrative in the press. So I'm subscribed to a lot of educational articles, as you can imagine, and it's just like, head teacher sacks people for this school's lost, this school's losing this money, this school head teacher's stolen this money from so and so, and it's just like all negative. And actually there's some really powerful things going on in education. There's some really inspiring, passionate people that are really making a difference for our kids. And part of my philosophy, like reason that I started J&C is like, I want to be able to go, like it really inspires me when I meet people. I'm like, oh, what school does your kid go to? And they go, oh, they go to St. John Fisher. And I go, oh yeah, we teach over there. Do you know Mr. Mitchell or whoever it is? And they go, yeah, he's great. You know, and I want, you know, I want to create a world where children just love school. And when my child goes to school in September, it's like he just loves that arena. So yeah, coming back to that question, it's just like creating that passion around learning and creating those experiences that people are actually able to say, actually, education is fun, learning is fun. And actually from a parental perspective, I know that head teacher, I kind of get a bigger understanding of who he is as a person or who she is as a person, as opposed to just the person that I see at the school gates for literally 30 seconds, which is, there's no relationship there, right? So how do you build a community without that relationship? The only time that you appear as a head teacher is when your kid's in trouble. So it's really creating clarity around who is leading your children, who is educating your children, because oftentimes school leaders spend more time with our kids than us as parents. Yeah, for sure. And what I saw with the show was, you know, building traction, building an audience, building a community that are really passionate about learning. So I did an Inspiring Teachers series, I did an Inspiring Leaders series, and an Inspiring Entrepreneur series. And then I'm going to revamp all of those again for the next series. And it's worked really well. It's worked out a lot better than I thought it would. Sir Ken Robinson, who's written a load of books on education, who's really at the helm of creativity in schools, he tweeted us back and said, you know, really inspiring and engaging content. I love what you're doing. And there's been a couple of other people who have reached out to me as well, saying, look, I love what you're doing. So for us, it's about growing that community.
So give us your favourite interview and someone who you would like to interview, who perhaps is not already in your network.
So the favourite interview that it's a bit of a toss-up, but I would say right now, the one with Rashid Ben Zergan. So that's the one that I put out yesterday. I think you commented on that one as well. Like I connected with him in such a passionate way because he's the first educational leader that I've met that is very self-aware of who he is and very open to express that. He's like, yeah, bro. Like, I come from this environment and this is where I'm at now. Do you know what I mean? And
so young to be in that position of leadership. He's a head teacher, 31.
He set himself a goal and he just hit it. You know, and that's what learning and leadership is all about.
And it's a beautiful thing for children to see that as well, because you know, I think when you're at primary school, you think everyone's old anyway. But then when you grow up, you realise actually your teachers. No, but you know, now we have friends that are teachers, and we realise
it's getting younger.
Maybe so. True. But I look back now and I'm like, maybe that teacher was actually quite young. On reflection, you were 10, 12, 13. You thought they were really old. They were 30. So it's interesting to see him to be able to show that to young people that you can pick a career and go for it, and you can get to your goal at age 31. Is incredible.
And I'm speaking to a couple of really experienced and powerful and passionate people around education as well about coming on the show. One of the guys that inspired me from America actually to do my show, he runs a podcast called, what's it called? Slipped my mind, but a guy called Daniel Bauer runs a really powerful podcast in America. And he works with a lot of head teachers in terms of like training and professional development and all that sort of thing. I've had a conversation with him about coming on the show, which is just really inspiring to know that other people are connecting with the
Sure. So when you think about obviously raising successful children, I guess it's a mixture of, say, nature and nurture. So it is the education system, but it's also about parenting.
Absolutely.
So from your experience of being both a parent and someone in the education system, what should parents be doing to support their children in their aspirations and to support the education system and help those children to thrive? Are there any kind of top tips?
There's a few. The first thing is around language, right? And we live through language. All of our experiences are created and fulfilled through language. So the language that we use with our kids is really, really important, and often we don't realize it. So one of the things that I talk about a lot is, instead of focusing on the negative behavior that the child is doing, can you focus on the positive action that you want them to do? So instead of, and this is a simple example, right? So instead of going, stop running down the hall, you go, I need you to walk. Yeah. It's still the same level of intention, it's still the same clarity, but it's focusing on the positive action. And the reason why that distinction is important is because if you're always telling children what not to do, they create a barrier in their mind. And often what happens, learning is about relatedness, right? So what happens is children don't know how to form the relationship between what not to do when, right? So when you say to a child, don't run, it kind of like, or focus, and that is like the constant narrative, and again, there's nothing wrong with saying it, right? But when you focus on like the negative all the time, they think that that's a negative thing, right? Which is with them where you get a lot of rebellion in teenage years because they've always been told not to do stuff, and they kind of follow that path, and then as soon as their parents slip away from them, then they're able to go and do what they want to do, right? But whereas if you focus on the positive thing that you want them to do, then their mindset is more positive, their mindset is more clear on the instruction, and also you get less fiddle, right? So you say to a kid, stop fiddling with the pen, he might go, okay, cool, and then I might start fiddling with something else, right? But if you say to a kid, right, I need you to write, or I need you to keep writing, then what are they going to focus on? The language has said, okay, keep writing, so that's what I need to do. And then the language is more focused. So that's one thing that I would say, is to really focus on the language and encouraging kids to take positive action on what it is that you want them to do, and moving away from that kind of negative language. And people often perceive that, and I don't want it to be perceived as fluffy, because it still can be very, very serious, very, very intentional, and very direct, right? And be very clear and be very confident and strong with that. But it's about focusing the language on the positive thing that we want them to do.
I think that even moves into when you're an adult.
Yeah.
The language that we use and the self-limiting beliefs that we instill in ourselves just by the language we use. Instead of saying, I can't do this, I can if. Just the language that we use is just so important. So I get, and that comes from ground up. So I totally get that. Amazing.
And we say to kids, don't shout or whatever it might be. Actually, there are appropriate places to shout. Right? And what we do as parents is we often create conflict, which I'm really fascinated by, because we create conflict. We say one thing in one scenario. I don't know, don't run, for example, right? And you mean don't run. What you mean is don't run in the house, right? Because it's dangerous and there's things around that you might trip on, right? And then they go to a football man, don't run!
So their whole mind is like, hang on,
when do I run? When do I not?
And for a 5-year-old, that's quite confusing. Absolutely.
So it's providing context as well as the language you use, but it's providing that context. And I think as adults, you don't often feel you need to explain, but maybe it's the explainer.
Just does, because I said so.
Yeah, it's because I said so. There's no explanation.
I had a conversation with my son a few days ago. He was misbehaving a little bit, and I was just very clear with him, and I kind of loved. And his mum was watching by the door, and I could just see her smiling at the end of it. Cause I was like, "What did you do?" And he was like, "Well, I was doing this, and I wasn't getting up." I was like, "Why did you do that?" And he was like, "I wanted to play." I said, "So what do you think you should do in that situation if you want to play, but Daddy needs to go home?" "Oh, well, I should come." I was like, "Why do you think you should come? Why do you think that's important?" And then my son's 3, do you know what I mean? He's like, "Well, because I need to do X, Y, and Z, and I need to eat food, and I need to look after me, and you're just looking out for my safety." I said, "Great. So what are you going to do next time?" He was like, "I'm going to make sure you look out for my safety. I'm going to get up." I said, "Great."
Shit.
But it's the time that it takes, isn't it? I think a lot of parents it's the time, the energy. You just want to, that quick response, but that quick response doesn't.
But that
isn't serving, is it?
when you transition in life from a parent to being an even employer or a manager, that same conversation still happens. Or some people say, do this like that, where you can have a different conversation. And say, well, why did you not do that? It's all about, this is about management even.
This is what I was saying the other day about the difference between a dirt sandwich and a velvet hammer.
Right.
Remember this? There's a scenario in managerial skills and leadership skills where you have the dirt sandwich, which is where you bring someone in if you're a manager and you say, you've got something bad to talk to them about, but you put something nice at the top, then you tell them the crap, and you say, this, you've done this, this, and this wrong, and then you pad it in the end with the nice thing again. So the person leaves confused, they're like, oh, I think I got told off, but I'm not really sure. Like, I'm not really, they said I was good, but they told me I was rubbish.
You know what, I might be guilty of that sometimes.
Yeah, but then the new leadership styles that have a velvet hammer. So you bring them in and you have that conversation, that dialogue with them and say, how is things happening? Okay, why is it happening like that? What do you think you could do to change that? And so you bring them into the conversation. So although you're saying to them, what you're doing is not good, you're giving them the opportunity to agree with you and then for them to work on the alternative. So you're giving them that context. I think that's the difference. So even as working with a parent, working with an adult, it's the same thing, right?
Same thing.
Bring them in.
And what you're referring to really is lifelong learning. Because when it comes from the internal person, this is like what coaching is all about, right? And one of the things that I've learned recently is that when it comes from the person individually, then they're able to sustain it and it becomes a part of who they are and how they operate, as opposed to, I'm just doing what I've been told to do.
But also that's bad, because in reality, when you have staff, you don't want them to always only do what you tell them to do. You want them to have some initiative, you want them to innovate, you want them to say to you, actually, what you've just told me to do doesn't work because. But if you don't give them that space to have that dialogue, then they just end up doing it and they do it wrong. And then you're angry with them.
Right.
So, cool. So language, number one. What's the second thing for parents?
Preparation.
Or teachers.
Preparation is an important thing. So along with the language, it's like preparing for the day, preparing for the moment, preparing for the week, right? So one of the things that I think about is, okay, so what are your times to engage with your child, right? What are your times that you are going to put your phone in your cupboard or wherever it is and really engage with your child? What are the times that you're going to learn with your child? What are the times that you're going to read with your child? Many parents are great at that. One of the things that I also think about is like, how do you prepare for the day ahead? How do you prepare when you're taking, I did a crazy thing a couple of years ago. I took like 5 kids under 5 out to like central London to Shrek or something. People were like, how do you do it? And I was like, preparation. You prepare the food in advance. You prepare the time that you're going to eat food. And you have to explain all of this to them so that they understand the journey. So then you get, it's not like children transform in a moment, right? But you get less questions about when are we going to get there?
Yeah, sure.
What time are we eating? You get less of that because they've already been told. And they start to understand the narrative. So preparation is definitely a big thing. Just like having allocated times for certain things and making sure that it's given them a kind of like a well-rounded and holistic experience. Yeah.
Do you have any habits, success habits? I like talking about habits sometimes and what successful people do in their life to kind of, what are your habits to push yourself forward? What habits do you have, good, bad, or indifferent?
Great. I have a morning routine. I have a nighttime routine. So the morning routine is like read 30 minutes, meditate, gym, write my goals for the day, and listen to something positive. So right now I'm on Tony Robbins. I gave myself I just kind of, sometimes I just think let me just do something completely different that I've not done before. So I just said, you know what, Tony Robbins is a really interesting guy. Let me just listen to everything of his for a month. So I listen to Tony Robbins every single morning.
So you said he's a really interesting guy. What is it about him that you find interesting?
The way he is able to, he's got so many skills, right? He's got leadership skills, he's got business skills, he's got parenting, and he very much understands the neuroscience behind how people perform. So he's been like a performance coach for top international athletes, to presidents of the country, to CEOs of multinational companies. He owns, multi-billion pound companies. So for him to be able to do that and to be able to connect with an audience of people who are not there, who are not in business, and be able to raise their performance is incredible. And the level at which he does it at, the impact that he's able to create on the mass scale that he's able to create it is something that is really overwhelming. But I understand that it's the same principle. It's the same principle of learning and how to raise the level of performance, whether you are a parent teaching a child or whether you are a CEO of a multinational company that is trying to raise the level of performance from your staff team. It's the same principles apply.
So your morning routine is quite intense. It's quite a lot.
How long is that?
How long is that, and what time are you waking up?
Yeah, great. So my wake up times just shift nowadays, to be honest. I'm usually up before about 9. Sometimes it's like 5 o'clock in the morning, sometimes it's like 9 o'clock, right? But essentially I read for half an hour, or if I'm in a rush, I read a minimum of 5 pages, that's like my thing, right? And then meditate for 10 minutes, and then podcast is on while I'm in the shower or while I'm getting dressed, and then writing goals takes like 10 seconds, right?
Okay.
Yeah, awesome.
And evening routine?
Yeah. And then evening routine is just meditation, reflection, reflective writing. So I'm not as intense on the nighttime routine. I don't do it every day. I do it like 2 or 3 times a week. Meditation, reflection, writing, like writing about the highlights of the day and what I want to create for the next day and so on and so forth. Write my action plan for the next day, and that's pretty much it. Yeah. And
so I know that you're kind of in that process of becoming, I don't know if it's becoming, but public speaking is something that you're, I guess, would it be training for or learning about?
Yeah.
Is that something that you want to do for the future?
Yeah.
And why is it you want to do it?
Yeah, so I was involved in the Toastmasters program intensely for about 1.5 years. So that's another thing that I did in terms of learning. And really being able to connect with an audience, a wide audience, about what it is that is, like, what is it that is important to them, and being able to create that in a powerful message is really important to me. And I find it fun, I find it really exciting. Yeah, so I did Toastmasters, and really I want to get to a stage where I'm speaking on stage in educational conferences. I was speaking to somebody about this yesterday, I was speaking to my commercial director this morning, like, I'm going to get you on stage here. So I'm speaking to educational conferences about learning, because I feel like as well, a lot of educational conferences are about education, and education becomes kind of like a fixed identity, which is one-dimensional, and that's one way of looking at it. What gives me my skill set and my sort of difference is that I'm not an educational specialist, I'm a learning specialist, and there's a difference. So I look at it from multifunctional industries, and then bring those skill sets into the educational space, as opposed to looking at it from like a fixed paradigm. This is a school, this is how a school works. And that's one of the things that I was talking to Rashid about as well. He doesn't refer to a school as a school, he refers to it as an organisation. Yeah. Because for a school to get better, it's the same principles that are used to grow an organisation. Yeah. And it's looking at it from a different aspect in order to give it a more productive and profound outcome.
Awesome. Well, I think that is everything that I have to ask. That is an awesome, I think, answer that you've given there. Where can people find you? How can they connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm on all the social media networks as @Mr. Jadrose, and I'm also on YouTube. Just Google the Passion for Learning series and Google J&C Education, and you'll find out more about the organisation as a whole.
So just someone else one last question. If someone wants to, say, there's a teacher out there that wants to work for your organisation, what are the kind of the key skills or attributes that you look for that makes you different from the others?
What are the things that we look for from the teacher, or what makes us different as an organisation?
What are the things that you look for in a teacher that are different?
Right, so there's only 2 things that we look for from a teacher, right? Personality, pedagogy. Personality, are you passionate about what you do? And that's like the first and foremost thing, because for you to be able to engage learners and empower them, you have to be passionate about what you do. Yeah. You have to be positive, right? So this is like coming into our values. And then you have to have the pedagogy. So can you be productive? Can you accelerate learning outcomes? Can you deliver learning and accelerate the learning so that children learn more in less space of time? And we teach that, but as long as they've got the foundation for them to be able to, be passionate and like improve learning along the journey, like improve the education of the kids at some level, then we'll look at that and go, okay, this is the level you're at, and then let's take your performance to the next level for our training and professional development programs.
So if you can send a message, look down that camera there, you can send a message to all the teachers out there that are, looking for change or looking for representation or however you want to put it.
Representation.
Yeah, and if you can put a message out there, first of all to the teachers, then to the schools, then to the kids. 30 seconds on each.
So if you're a passionate teacher that wants to teach your specialist subject, whether it be art, drama, music, PE, French or Spanish, J&C is a really powerful community where you can deliver that subject. You'll be surrounded by inspiring teachers who are passionate about the subject as well, and also helping to take your performance to the next level, whilst also minimising your paperwork and all of the other things that go around education, because we provide that for you so that you can really go in and focus on the delivery.
Woo. I love a man that's ready to pitch. You know, not everyone can do that. You know, most people, you put them on the spot and say 30 seconds.
I don't even want the other two now.
Yeah, forget it. He's done. He did it.
I've been on the Key Persons of Influence course. I've been letting Daniel Pushley down about
great.
I'm just booking someone to get. I bought it recently.
Yeah, great.
Sorry.
I have a final question. What does your mom say now?
She loves me.
Okay. She loved you anyway. Mom and grandma, what do they say now?
Grandma.
True. Yeah, my mum's just a very calm person. She was like, I'm proud of you, you know.
She would have been proud of you anyway. You're just her son, right?
Right, yeah, precisely. Yeah.
Cool. All right, fabulous. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Jazz Rose. If you want to get in touch with Jazz, find him on J&C Education, as well as on Instagram and the like at Mr. Jazz Rose. Thank you very much for tuning in. I've been Bianca Miller-Cole.
And I'm Byron.
We'll see you in the next one. Bye.